the little person inside that always knew who she was. But it's not what you think. Last week, I started this series introducing all the parts of me that I've met, nurtured, and learned from during my journey to deep inner self-leadership. This work became the cornerstone of what would eventually grow into my business, Living Oak Leadership. As both a practitioner and a client of Internal Family Systems, or IFS, this modality didn't just improve my life in a surface level kind of way. It altered it tectonically. IFS helped me organize my identity. It helped me see my own growth rings, the imprints, wounds, adaptations, teachers, and protectors inside of me, but not as flaws, but instead as formative layers of development and information. Because of IFS, I can write this series from a place of integration rather than fragmentation. These parts are not liabilities. They're not just wounded inner children. As the founder of IFS, Dick Schwartz, says in one of his most profound teachings, there are no bad parts. They are the very rings that formed my triggers, protective layers, strengths, and abilities, all of it. And now I have a relationship with those parts and learn more about them each day. They would allow me now to be a wholly embodied self, leading from clarity, compassion, courage, confidence, creativity, and calmness, instead of operating as a constantly triggered stick of dynamite waiting for the next spark. Believe me, I'm a Jersey Italian girl, so trust me when I say I was like a loaded gun 24/7 for much of my life. It's because of this work that I can truly unlock my leadership clients as well. Strong outer leadership requires integrated inner leadership. The second installment of what I call my Oak Leaves series is about the importance of internal family systems in helping me identify all my parts and how, without it, I would have built the kind of deeply aware relationship with my self-leadership, which is what allows me to teach it and hold space for others. IFS has unlocked my clients when traditional executive coaching hit a ceiling. It has helped me break generational cycles that no amount of performance strategy could untangle. It creates strong inner leaders, and strong inner leaders become conscious, effective, emotionally regulated leaders of people. I believe we need that now more than ever. In my first installment, I introduce you to Curly, my 3-year-old part who believes she had killed her 8-month-old sister by holding open the basement door the day she fell down the stairs. That imprint of, when I open doors, bad things happen, followed me into adulthood. Every promotion, every risk, every expansion, every time I reached a new height. But this chapter is not about another freeze response or part. It's about the fire of knowing who you were meant to be and trying to convey that to the world. This is where I met 5-year-old Little Blue, named after the famous blue velvet dress that she was made to wear and which was immortalized in a picture still hanging on my family walls. By age 5, I was beginning to know my own preferences and what I liked and what I didn't. I didn't like dresses. I liked to run. I liked to move. I had a deep inner sense of knowing I was loved and destined for big things. It made Lil Blue feel at ease knowing that. She knew her purpose. Even though she couldn't verbalize it, she just knew it intrinsically. Yet that year, she was also required to wear corrective shoes due to a problem they said she had with her arches. Turns out, those shoes created a lifelong chronic back issue I now have. But that's a story for another day. Forced to wear ugly, bright red, structured orthopedic shoes that felt louder than my voice. It was horrible. Not to mention the hot and heavy blue velvet dress, stiff, formal, constricting, the kind that she despised every time that I had to wear one for a holiday or an event. It felt like being dressed for someone else's idea of who I, or Little Blue, should be. And yet, Little Blue never believed she was broken. That's the part that still undoes me. It haunts me. She knew the shoes were for her good. She understood instinctively, though, that the adults were trying to help her body align. But she didn't internalize the defectiveness. She didn't collapse into shame. But she also didn't confuse her attire with her identity. She had a quiet, immovable knowing. I'm here for something big, no matter what they tell me what to wear or what to be. No ego, no grandiosity, just a calling, and she knew it. It was as if she carried ancestral memory in her bones, or a divine whisper that never needed proof. She felt guided, placed, intentional. Not all we inherit harms us as much of or as often as popular therapy or social media influencers like us to believe. I'm a trained clinical therapist, and traditional talking therapy does have its place, in my opinion, but not until we know which parts exist and what actions in us they're actually driving. Most people think our youngest parts are fragile and need protection, and it's often true. But IFS taught me something radical. Some of our youngest parts can be and are our prophets or our guides. They hold clarity before conditioning. They hold instinct before the fear kicked in. They hold self-energy before the world taught us how to outsource it. Little Blue was one of those parts for me. And as I grew up, I abandoned her, not the other way around. As I grew, I developed coping mechanisms of things like I traded knowing for approval. I traded my clarity for caution. I traded my intuition for a corporate playbook. I traded safety for being seen and chosen. In short, I let Curly's fear of opening doors override Little Blue's certainty that I was meant to walk through. And she got angry. Not hurt, angry. Little Blue knew I was supposed to walk through those doors, not freeze at the sight of them. During a healing retreat years later, I decided to write a letter to my 5-year-old self. I expected to console her, to apologize for the shoes, for the dress, the ways I assumed she must have felt small. What came back to me stunned me. When that part wrote a letter back to me, she told me that she never felt small. She told me she never thought anything was wrong with her. She told me I was the one who stopped listening. I, the self, the adult. And she was pissed about it. Pissed that I shrank in rooms that she would have owned. Pissed that I diluted my voice when she would have spoken plainly. Pissed that I confused fear with wisdom. IFS teaches that there are no bad parts. Many of them are wounded, but sometimes we have parts that exist to remind us of our greatness, if we're open to the right kind of listening. It also teaches us that our parts are not problems to manage. They're relationships to tend. Little Blue did not need to be healed by me. She needed to be heard by me. She needed me to take actions that she knew we were destined to take. But for most of my adult life, I chose safety and security over doing what was the right thing for me, and that's not what she was trying to tell me. As I began consciously reconnecting with her, something profound shifted in my leadership. I stopped waiting for permission. I stopped apologizing for ambition. I stopped equating compliance with safety. And I began leading from the knowing, that intrinsic knowing I had at 5 years old. So think about that. Before there were performance reviews and comparisons, before the subtle corrections of tone it down, be more agreeable, play your part, we knew. Our parts always know. Little Blue knew that a velvet dress could not define her. She knew orthopedic shoes did not mean she was defective. She knew restriction was just circumstantial, but it wasn't existential. It wasn't her life. That distinction changed everything for me, the adult version of me, the self version of me. When I started doing this inner work, I understood. Now, when I guide leaders through their own parts work, I see this pattern constantly. Beneath the hyperachiever is a visionary child. Beneath the perfectionist is a creative force. Beneath the controller is a scared protector who's guarding their brilliance. Beneath all of it, there's always a part who remembers who they were before the world edited them, before the world harmed them. Self-leadership is not about reconstructing your confidence. It's about restoring the relationship we have with all of our parts. Little Blue now sits as one of my oak leaves, as I call it, not as a wounded child, but as an advisor. She reminds me of that divine knowing and that it's not arrogance. That alignment feels calm but not frantic. That big things are not achieved by shrinking and playing small. She also reminds me that anger from a part is often grief over being ignored. Today, when I feel hesitation rise inside of me, I ask her, are we shrinking again? Am I shrinking? Her answer is rarely gentle. Remember, I'm a curly-headed, hot-blooded little 5-year-old Italian now, so I told it like it was before I learned how to censor myself. She was never really gentle when I asked her a question, but I'm super grateful for it because it's that part that I needed. Because in this growing council of parts, Curly, now Little Blue, and the many others that will come in my other versions of this publication, IFS taught me that it doesn't fragment me. In fact, it's helped me become whole. The 5-year-old who once hated that blue velvet dress, she's now the woman who helps leaders take off their costumes that were never theirs to begin with. So think about that. What part of you should you be listening to more? So stay tuned for the next chapter, and we'll be back with another part.